Hi everyone, welcome to the Real Estate Tax Tips channel. My name is Cherry Chen, a chartered professional accountant located in Oakville, Ontario, Canada. And I'm on a mission to become the Google map for hardworking Canadians seeking financial freedom. And today's topic is market update and interest rate. And I don't know much about it. All I'm hearing is that the banks are collapsing and everyone is
In
trying
the
to
United States. Let's clarify that.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, in the United States. And then also, different countries are trying to decouple from the US dollars. That's what I was told. I don't know if that's true. I need to get to the gist of it. So today you're going to, I'm inviting you to my bed. This is our bed. But this is my pillow talk with my husband, Erwin Szeto here. Before I get started, make sure that you give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. I heard that 70% of you do not subscribe. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button when you watch this video. Now, with that, let's welcome Erwin Szeto, also known as Mr. Cherry Chen here.
Oh, my name is Erwin. I'm Terry's husband. I've been investing in real estate since 2005. I left my job at Big Blue after a 7-year career to be full-time in real estate back in 2010.
Big Blue.
Big Blue. What'd I say?
Big Blue.
Big Blue.
Yeah.
Big Blue.
Like if you don't know what that is, just search it. ChatGPT would know, I think.
I had a wonderful career in tech. I made wonderful money. I had a wonderful, my work was well respected, but I needed to do something else with my life and something that would actually build intergenerational wealth. And the corporate pay wasn't working out that way.
Okay, so what do you do now?
What I do now, I manage our portfolio, which is in the 8 figures. We currently have 11 properties, heavily focused on duplexes and student rentals. I also have a real estate practice. I have 3 full-time agents that work with me, and we help people generally from the GTA invest outside the GTA, where we can actually find some cash flow, and our clients can accumulate property for much better cash flow, so they can scale their portfolios in order to buy multiple properties and build some serious intergenerational wealth. And we've done a good job. We have over 45 clients who've made $1 million or more in investment real estate.
Now, let's tell us a little bit about what's going on in the world.
It is a nasty world out there, and if you don't know that, good for you, because it weighs a lot on the rest of us that do spend a lot of time digging into the details on what's going on in the world. So one big thing is United States, their status in the world as the #1 economy continues to fade. More and more countries are siding with countries like Russia and China, countries like Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Saudi Arabia. More and more countries are no longer using the US dollar to do trade with each other. Instead, they're using their own, using each other's currencies, for example. So for example, if someone's doing business with China, they're likely using the yuan instead of the US dollar. So US's status as the world reserve currency is failing, and their influence in the world is failing. But that's generally good news for us in Canada, because they will rely on us even more and more going forward.
So why is it important?
Why it's important? It's a really big question. So for example, if no one's buying US dollars, the value of the US dollar goes down. Not only that, if you don't have no intention of owning US dollars, then you're not buying American debt. So you're not buying treasuries. So now, if Americans have less people to sell treasuries to, how are they supposed to raise money via debt, which is one of the main ways they generally print money? So instead, they'll have to go straight to printing money, and then that just spells more inflation.
Oh, that's not good either.
That's not good, unless you're a real estate owner, or some people have some gold and Bitcoin and whatnot. Like, those people will generally benefit. Generally, the real estate investor who's invested smart will benefit heavily from this.
Oh my God. So if there is nobody buying the US dollar debt, US dollar treasury, what's going to happen to their whatever amount of trillions of debt that they currently have? Because over time, they also have to refinance it. They're not paying it down anyway to begin with.
They'll have to create their own money. They call it quantitative easing. Each time they have a round of quantitative easing, they say it's going to end. But quantitative easing to infinity, as we've been joking around for a few years.
Yeah, that could be the reason why when I'm reading up on all these news or watching YouTube channel about the Chinese and the American government's, power struggle.
Yeah. Even with Canada too.
Yeah.
You see the power struggle with us in China.
we are power struggling with China. There is such a thing. We don't have any power in the world stage.
We don't, but yeah.
I mean, practically speaking, they still increase their interest rate.
They did, but that was planned. And that was just yesterday. So Jerome Powell has the overtones are that that's the last increase. The question that investors like myself are asking: when does the U.S. Federal Reserve start cutting the interest rates? A couple things: they need to raise more money, so they need to cheapen their own debt. They need to eventually, depending on what they feel like doing, but eventually they'll have to save their economy. And also with all these banks that are going under, the U.S. regional banks that are going under in the U.S., the higher interest rates do not help that at all.
It's always interesting for me to watch news that are balancing the negative media on China. So what are the odds of China going in wars with the US government? And what's the economic impact if they do go into wars?
I'd still imagine it's unlikely, seeing how the world responded to when Russia invaded Ukraine. That was not good business for Russia. So I can't imagine China wants to affect their business relationships with the rest of the world as well. China has generally just always been neutral. Historically, have they ever gone outside their own borders to attack anyone? If you don't know, go look it up. Versus the Americans, they have a very different track history.
Well, it's also a bad business also for the rest of the world as well. Like I know Europe is suffering from the energy crisis because of the war. Yeah, so it's also a bad business. I think the world is also watching how the relationship is going to pan out. I didn't know that Russia was such a big supplier of gas in the past, and then now that it hit, it's just creating so much chaos and
Inflation
in Europe as well. And if the rest of the world also choose to side with the U.S., that means the China production could stop. And it's also not good for the rest of the world.
It's terrible for the world. And then at the end of the day, I learned all this stuff to figure out how do we protect our own family. And there's inflation everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's inflation. There's some great things that are coming out that are deflationary, like ChatGPT, robots and stuff like that. But generally, everything's out there is quite inflationary. So you need to do those things that combat inflation. Generate more income, own assets that generate income, hard assets, and our preference has always been real estate.
Okay, so interest rate is gonna come down from here on. But then I thought that I saw headlines of Bank of Canada trying to increase their rate again.
You can't really always believe what they say. They've for years they said they're going to increase interest rates, and they didn't for years until they finally did, until the problem got so bad. But we'll see from here. Even if they do, it might be a quarter point. But again, based on the problems, especially in the U.S., the Americans will have to cut at some point to try to stop the bleeding from their U.S. banks, regional banks going belly up, because that's bad for business. And then for anyone who knows, banking volatility, so like banks going under, then usually the response from most central banks is to reduce interest rates. And also the bond market behaves in a way, because bonds generally will go up in this period. It's a flight to safety. Naturally, there's flight to safety. So bonds go up, yields go down, which means our fixed rates on our mortgages come down. And then that's more fuel for the real estate fire.
Okay, so for the real estate investors that are out there, there's good news coming up. It's actually good news, depending on how you look at it. I mean, it's never good news if there's
this year alone, the April numbers already came out for Toronto Real Estate Board, for example. So this year alone, the first 4 months, January, February, March, April. For the first 4 months, the market's already at 5% in the first 4 months. So, if you bought a property in January, you're up 5% already, which is a phenomenal return. So
5% on the whole property price, not what you actually pay. So you get a bigger jump if you are investing in real estate using leverage.
Yeah. So you bought a house for $1 million, it's now worth $1,050,000. Right, so that's a wonderful return. Maybe not for everyone, but Cherry and I would be very happy with that kind of return.
Bad news for the world stage, but it's at the same time some good news for real estate investors. If you are real estate investors, good for all of us. If you are not real estate investors yet, maybe that's something that you can consider as well.
Yeah, because honestly, if you have kids, I have no idea how your children will ever own a home if you do not already own real estate. And those who have more real estate will get ahead much further in life than those who do not.
Okay, that's it. I think that's enough for the bad news or good news. I could only take so much economic news all at once. But thank you so much for coming on, and thank you so much for watching our Pillow Talk. Until next time, make sure that you give us a thumbs up if you find the video useful, and hit the subscribe button. Most importantly, hit the subscribe button. Until next time, thanks for watching.